What's up, welcome back to the channel, the Irishman. We're back again. It's snowing out here today, cold, looks really nice though. Look at that. Snow's falling down there pretty heavy. So plan is today, head back to the local Parq casino. We're going to jump in the 2-5 game, see what's going on out there. Try getting some big hands, play some big pots, play some fun hands. So if you've been enjoying the videos, please hit the subscribe button. Helps us out, helps us grow quicker. We're going to keep trying to play bigger and bigger games. So I will see you at the tables. Yo, what's the story, everybody? It's your favourite Irish fella back again with another poker vlog. Today we're heading to Parq Casino to play some 2-5. We're buying in for a bag of sand. The game looks pretty decent, so let's get into it and see how we get on. Kicking off the first hand here, we look down at Queen 9 of clubs under the gun. This is going to be good enough to raise here. We raise it on up to $20 to go. Under the gun 1 calls, middle position calls, the button calls, and the big blind calls. So we're going 5 ways to a flop here. There's 102 in the middle, and it comes down 7 of hearts, 3 of diamonds, 3 of clubs. So we flop 2 overcards, some backdoor potential there with a backdoor flush draw. It gets checked to us, and we're going to continue with a small bet here. We have a bunch of strong hands on this board. We're going to want to be betting for value, so it's nice to mix in some bluffs here with hands like this that have backdoor potential. We have 2 overcards that we can turn top pair with. So we fire out a bet of $35 and only under the gun 1 calls. Turn comes a pretty good one. It comes to Queen of Hearts. We now have top pair. We're going to continue betting. He can have a bunch of pocket pairs that we now take the lead versus. We fire out a bet of $75 and he calls pretty quickly. River now comes to 3 of hearts, so we make a full house. Pretty happy with this spot now. We're going to bet pretty big. We fire out a bet of $200 and get pretty quickly called. We turn over our hand and it's the winner. Wish we kind of had a bet a bit bigger there. I think people don't like to fold full houses, so we could have went closer to pot and probably still got paid by a pocket pair. But nice to take down a $727 pot to start the vlog off. In the next hand, middle position and the cut-off boat limp. We're not going to let them away with that on the button. We put out a limper's tax, $30 to go. The small blind calls and the 2 limpers calls. So we're heading 4 ways to a flop here. Comes down 7 of spades, 3 of spades, 2 of spades. So we flop top pair and pretty bad kicker. It's a monotone board here, so all 3 of the cards are spades. It gets checked to us, and I think we're going to want to continue with a very small bet here. I think multi-way we want to use small bets, and on monotone boards you're usually going to want to do a lot of small betting. I think when we bet small, we can definitely have the best hand here, but there's a bunch of cards that have lots of equity against us. Hands with just 2 overcards, hands with a spade. So we want to thin the field a bit, protect our hand, get a small bit of value. We fire out a bet of $35. Middle position calls and the cut-off calls. So heading 3 ways to a turn here. There's $230 in the middle and it comes to 10 of clubs. Checks to us again, and I think we could continue with a small bet here again sometimes, but we definitely, against 2 players, I think we want to check back now. We might not have the best pair. There's going to be hands like 8s and 9s that call, so we want to apply a bit of pot control here, check it back and see what develops on the river. River comes to 10 of hearts, pairing the 10. Middle position checks and the cut-off fires out a bet of $100, and now we have a decision to make here. I think I decided in game I'm going to bluff catch this hand for a couple of reasons. Middle position would never check a flush here, I don't think, on the river, so he's pretty much given up in the hand. And also, if I call, middle position will be forced to fold some better hands than us sometimes if he has a better 7, a pair of 8s, a pair of 9s. And I also think the cut-off can certainly be bluffing here. He's going to want to bluff hands that contain a missed spade in them. He can easily have the ace of spades, the king of spades. So we can definitely find hands he's going to bluff here on the river when it gets checked to him. I think we're just going to call with our 7. Hopefully he has a missed flush draw. We flick in the call and he turns over 4 or 5 of spades for a flop flush. So unfortunate there to lose to a flush, but I don't hate my call. I think it seems fine on the river. I think the cut-off is certainly going to bluff enough of the missed spades to make this a profitable call, but unfortunate that we lose that one. So in this hand, I make a bit of a mistake pre-flop. I was taking down the notes from the previous hand and missed that the button had straddled to 10 and the big blind had called. I thought it folded to me in the cutoff and I made a 25 to go with ace jack of spades. Not realising that there was a limp for 10, there's a straddle on the button to 10. No one's going to fold to that size. I should have been making it $40, $50 had I realised, but I make a 25. The cut-off calls. He's an older gentleman. Name is Frank. I was chatting to him all day. Really nice fella. So shout out Frank. He said he's going to check out the vlog. He's the villain in this hand also. So you get to see an L entanglement we get into. The button folds and the big blind limper calls. So we're heading three ways to a flop here. Comes down a pretty good one. It comes the ace of clubs, four hearts, three of spades. So we flop top pair. Gets checked to us. We're going to be pretty comfortable here betting for value. We fire out a bet of $30. Only Frank calls in the cutoff and we're going heads up to a turn. Turn comes to three of hearts. There's $145 in the middle. We fire out another bet of $85 before Frank pretty quickly puts us in the blender with a raise to $275. Pretty tough spot here now. He's only 250 behind after the raise, so the decision is ultimately here on the turn. If I call, I'm probably calling the river. So we need to decide what hands is he going to do this with as a bluff and what's he doing it with for value. So I think usually we would expect ace queen and ace king to three bet pre-flop, but against this player type, I see a lot of people from a similar era of poker. They like to flat ace queen and ace king pre, so I don't think we can discount those hands. I think he might sometimes have a full house of fours, but that also might call some of the time. And for bluffs, it's hard to find too many bluffs. I don't think he's floating too many just random heart like backdoor heart draws on the flop. So I actually think this is pretty strong, and I think we could be up against way more ace queen and ace king than we would be against other player types. In game, I ended up deciding to make the tie fold. Usually, I just call too much, but in this spot, I struggle to find any bluffs. And even though there's not that much value, I think it's just more likely to be weighted towards value. I think we need to make the decision here on the turn because if we call the turn, we can't fold on the river. I end up making the tight laydown. Frank never shows me what he has, which makes me think that he might have been more likely to have it. I think he would have wanted to show me a spicy bluff. If you did make a bluff, Frank, big ups. That's a spicy turn spot to go for it. So we make the fold. Let me know if you think it was the right fold. Would you have called? I don't know. I'm still unsure, but I think we might have made the right fold. There's a bunch of limpers in front of us before we look down at two very powerful cards on the best position in poker, the button. Ace King suited. One of the best hands you can have pre-flop. We're not going to let them away with that. We're going to put the limpers tax on and raise $30 to go. I'm not going to name all the positions because I get so many callers, but we end up going seven ways to a flop. That's always a sign of a good game when the action's going seven ways to a flop. There's $210 in the middle, and the flop comes down a very interesting one. It comes Queen Jack 9 with two clubs. So we don't flop anything on the flop per se, but we do have a monster draw. We've the nut flush draw, we've a gut shot to the nuts, we've two overcards. So we're going to be betting here if it gets checked to us with such a powerful draw. Even if someone has a set, we're flipping against a set with this draw. So we're going to want to put money into the pot, try to in the field. If we hit our draw, happy days. But that's not what happens. Middle position decides to go all in for $400 before the next player beside him goes all in for $550. It folds around to us. I don't think we can ever fold a draw this powerful. The decision is just, do we rejam or do we call? We have over 1,000 in our stack. I decide to rejam. We stick in our stack, it folds, and we're going off to the races. Looking to hit one of our cards. We're going to have a lot of equity here. Even sometimes we can be up against smaller draws. So we don't mind the situation. We're getting such a good price to jam here with our cards. I'm going to pick up the phone here, zoom in. You can see that juicy flop. We're hoping the dealer gives us some luck on the turn. This is an absolutely massive pot. Let's see if the dealer can drill one of our outs on the turn or the river. One of the players turns his hand over to show King 10 off for a straight. We oblige and turn over our hand to give the table a sweat to see that we have a monster draw and the original all-in player does not show his cards. The dealer has to do a bit of configuration here because there's so much money in the pot. There's a side pot. It takes him a while. We're sitting there waiting for him to deal the turn. He eventually does, and he drills one of the best cards in the deck. It comes to 10 of diamonds, giving us the nut straight. Now, we probably can't lose unless the original player has a set. We're drawn to a chop with the player with a straight, but hopefully that doesn't come. River comes to deuce of spades. Our hand is the winner. He's shoveling a massive pot our way. You love to see it. Getting in there with the monster draw, getting there on the turn. We're shipping a massive pot here. It's $1,800. We're happy. After how we've been running recently, we didn't think it was going to come, but it comes and we end up scooping a massive pot. So thank you, sir. We'll take the 10 of diamonds every time you want to turn us the nuts and three-way all-ins. We won't complain. We look down at the jam jars in middle position and make it $20 to go before middle position 3 bets to 65. We're just going to call here early position against middle position. I think we don't want to be 4 betting. I think if it's later position, we can mix in some 4 bets, but I think this is just going to play fine as a call. We make the call and the flop comes down 10-6-4 with 2 hearts. I check and he bets $50. We're not going anywhere here with an overpair. He can still have a bunch of ace king, ace queen, hands like this he's bluffing with. We are still losing to the overpairs, but never folding jacks here to just 1 bet. We make the call and the river comes a pretty gin one. Comes a jack to give us top set. We turn the nuts. Happy days. Now we're really hoping he does have an overpair. We check and he fires out a bet of $125. He only has about 250 behind, so I think sometimes we can call and just let him continue bluffing on the river, but he might shut down with hands like ace king, ace queen, and we don't want a scare card to come on the river. We just want to stack his overpairs now. We decide we're going to stick it all in now. Hopefully he has aces, kings, queens, puts in the call. We shove all in for his last 250 and he snap calls. We're just hoping to avoid a queen, a king, or an ace, as he more than likely has an overpair. River comes an offsuit 3. We have the nuts. We turn over our jacks, and he flashes us pocket 10s for a flop set. Pretty sick cooler there. We have the lead pre-flop. He takes the lead on the flop. We get there on the turn, and there's nothing he could do there. He's probably lucky he just didn't have more chips because we would have won an even bigger pot because he's always going broke there. Anyone is set over set. It's such a sick cooler to happen and hold him. When it happens, you're more than likely just losing your stack. And for the final hand of the vlog today, we look down at ace king off and the cut off and raise to $20. The button calls before probably the best player in the game 3 bets to $100 out the small blind. But expect him to be doing a lot of squeezing here. He's a very, very good reg. Folds back around to us, and now I think we're both over 2k deep, so we've both have over 400 big blinds. And I was doing some work on GTO Wizard recently, and you'd be surprised how much you just have to call when you get deep versus 4 bets. Like 200 big blinds deep, ace king off is calling 70% of the time. So given we're 400 big blinds deep, I'd imagine this is just a pure call. Ace king suited, we'd be for sure 4 betting though. We make the call, the button gets out of the way before the flop comes down. King 7-2 with 2 diamonds. We flop top pair, top kicker. Pretty happy with this situation now. Small blind can definitely have a wide range here. I would expect him to continue this flop with his entire range to a small sizing. That's exactly what he does. He fires out a bet of $75 and we make the call. Turn now comes the queen of clubs. He checks it over to us. Now, I'm very confident we have the best hand. I think if he had aces, ace king, he's going to continue to barrel. So we're going to want to put out a bet here, start getting some value for our ace king. We fire out a bet of $175. And he pretty quickly makes the call. Heading off to a river here comes a blank. It comes the 8 of hearts. He checks it on over to us again. And we're going to go for value here. We're going to fire big with our ace king. I think he's never going to play this trappy with a hand like aces. I don't think he'd want to check raise the river when there's a bunch of sets I can have. So we're pretty confident we're not going to get check raised here unless he had the one combo of kings or he turned maybe queens. Maybe the odd time he has king queen, but we blocked that. So there's a lot of hands we can get value from. We can get value from a hand like king jack, king 10 suited at 3-bet pre. If he turned top pair with ace queen, which is another likely hand he can have, that bets the flop and then checks the turn, checks the river. So we're going to want to size up here. We fire out a bet of $500 to send him deep into the tank. He spends about a minute or two in the tank deciding what to do before eventually makes the call. We turn over our ace king. He says it's good, knuckles the table, mucks his hand, and we scoop a very nice pot there to finish the session. I actually spoke to him after the game. I said, did you have ace queen there? He said he did have ace queen. Makes a lot of sense for how we played the hand. Don't think he can fold on the river. He's a pretty decent bluff catcher. He can bluff versus, I can be bluffing missed diamonds, so I think he's probably just going to have to make the call. We wrap up a pretty nice session here. We have a fat stack. I'll show you that now. We were into the game for $1,400. Cashing out $3,100 for a profit of $1,700. Nice to get back in the winning books. Feels like it's been a while. We did get smacked in the face by the deck today. Made some pretty good hands. Cooler at some people, but we'll take that any day. It's nice to get back on the wagon, back to winning ways. So I will see us now on the outro. So, successful day at the tables, finally back in the green. We were into the game for $1,400, out for $3,100 for a profit of $1,700. Nice to book a win. The deck did kind of smack us in the face. We made a lot of nice hands, cooler at some people, but that's always good. We'll take that. If you enjoyed this, please click the subscribe button, helps the channel out. We've some cool shit planned coming up. We have a trip planned back to the motherland to play probably the most fun poker festival in the world, and I'm not being biased because I'm from there, but if you've never been to the Irish Open, it's just crazy atmosphere, lots of drinking, lots of gambling, tons of cash games, probably the most fun you'll ever have at a poker event. So we'll have some vlogs coming from that. We're going to show off some of the casinos I played in back when I lived in Ireland. It'd be good to go back, see the regulars playing some fun games, and I think you will enjoy that. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.